Cody Rhodes just walked out of WWE and the entire wrestling world is in absolute chaos right now. The American Nightmare, the man who came back to finish his story, the wrestler who main event WrestleMania and captured the WWE Championship, has reportedly told WWE management that he's done and he's not coming back. This news broke just hours after one of the most humiliating defeats in recent memory at the hands of Drew McIntyre, a loss so devastating and so shameful that Cody apparently decided he couldn't show his face in a WWE ring ever again. If you think this is just rumor or speculation, stay until the end because we have details that will blow your mind. And make sure you smash that subscribe button and drop a comment telling WWE exactly how you feel about losing one of the biggest stars in the entire industry because of their terrible booking decisions. Last night was supposed to be another chapter in the rivalry between Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre, two of the top performers on the SmackDown brand who have been circling each other for weeks. The build to this match had been intense with both men trading verbal shots and physical confrontations that had fans eagerly anticipating their showdown. Cody Rhodes came into this match with momentum, confidence, and the support of millions of fans worldwide who have followed his journey from leaving WWE years ago to his triumphant return and championship success. Drew McIntyre came in as a hungry challenger determined to prove he belonged at the top of the card and willing to do whatever it took to secure victory. The match itself started with the energy and intensity you would expect from two elite competitors fighting for pride and position. Cody and Drew exchanged holds and strikes, feeling each other out, testing for weaknesses, working through sequences that built toward bigger moments. The crowd was invested from the opening bell, chanting for both wrestlers, creating an atmosphere that should have led to a classic encounter that fans would remember for years. Instead, what transpired over the next 20 minutes will be remembered for entirely different and far more disturbing reasons. Around the 10-minute mark, the match took a turn that nobody saw coming. Drew McIntyre started targeting Cody Rhodes with a viciousness that went beyond normal competitive aggression. The strikes became stiffer, the throws more reckless, the overall approach shifting from trying to win a wrestling match to trying to hurt another human being. Cody tried to match that intensity but Drew had crossed into a zone where pain was the objective and victory was just a byproduct. The referee should have stepped in multiple times to restore order but seemed content to let the violence escalate without intervention. Drew McIntyre hit Cody with a series of moves that left the American Nightmare visibly dazed and struggling to defend himself. A massive overhead suplex sent Cody crashing onto the back of his head and neck. A powerbomb onto the ring apron, the hardest part of the ring according to every wrestler who's ever lived, left Cody gasping for air and clutching his spine. Drew wasn't wrestling to win anymore. He was wrestling to destroy, to humiliate, to break Cody Rhodes physically and mentally in front of the entire world. The crowd's energy shifted from excitement to concern as they watched Cody absorb punishment that seemed excessive even by professional wrestling standards. Fans started chanting for Cody to make a comeback, to dig deep and find that fighting spirit that has defined his career. But every time Cody tried to mount a fence, Drew cut him off with brutal efficiency. A knee to the gut stopped a momentum shift. A clothesline that nearly took Cody's head off ended another comeback attempt. Drew McIntyre was in complete control and he was making sure everyone knew it. What happened next is what has the entire wrestling community talking and what apparently pushed Cody Rhodes to the breaking point. Drew McIntyre set up for his finishing move, the claymore kick, but before executing it he grabbed a microphone and started cutting a promo while Cody was helpless in the ring. Drew talked about how overrated Cody was, how his story was a fairy tale that didn't match reality, how the American Nightmare was nothing compared to the Scottish Warrior. He mocked Cody's family legacy, brought up his father, made personal attacks that crossed every line of professional respect. Cody tried to get to his feet, tried to defend himself and his family's honor, but his body wouldn't cooperate. The beating he had absorbed left him unable to stand without using the ropes for support. Drew watched this struggle with a smirk on his face, clearly enjoying every second of Cody's suffering. The crowd was booing loudly now, showering Drew with hatred for the disrespect and cruelty on display. But Drew didn't care. He fed off the negative energy, using it to fuel his assault. Drew finally hit the claymore kick with devastating impact, connecting flush with Cody's jaw and sending the American Nightmare crashing to the canvas unconscious. The referee counted 3 and the match was over. But Drew McIntyre wasn't finished. Instead of celebrating his victory and moving on like a normal competitor, Drew grabbed Cody's limp body and dragged him to the center of the ring. He then proceeded to hit another claymore kick on a defenseless opponent who couldn't protect himself. The crowd erupted in angry boos as Drew continued the assault. Officials and referees rushed the ring trying to pull Drew away but he shoved them aside and hit a third claymore kick on Cody Rhodes. At this point, medical personnel were sprinting down the ramp with stretchers and equipment, genuinely concerned about Cody's condition. Drew McIntyre finally backed off, raising his arms in victory while Cody lay motionless in the ring surrounded by doctors checking his vital signs and responsiveness. The image of Cody Rhodes being stretchered out of the arena while Drew McIntyre celebrated above him was sickening to watch. Fans in attendance were visibly upset, some crying, some screaming obscenities at Drew, all of them concerned about Cody's well-being. Social media immediately exploded with reactions ranging from anger at Drew McIntyre to criticism of WWE for allowing this to happen to worry about whether Cody was legitimately injured. The hashtag started trending worldwide within minutes as millions of people processed what they had just witnessed. What nobody knew at the time was that backstage, Cody Rhodes was having a very different reaction than anyone expected. Multiple sources close to the situation have reported that once Cody was checked out by medical staff and cleared of serious injury, he went directly to WWE management and had a heated conversation that lasted over an hour. Details of that conversation are still emerging, but the core message was clear. Cody Rhodes felt humiliated, disrespected, and done with WWE. According to these sources, Cody told WWE executives that he didn't sign up to be destroyed and mocked on television for entertainment value. He came back to WWE to finish his story, to honor his family legacy, to compete at the highest level with dignity and respect. What happened in that ring with Drew McIntyre was the opposite of everything Cody values and believes in. The way the match was booked, the way he was portrayed as helpless and weak, the post-match beating that served no purpose except to make him look pathetic, all of it combined to create a situation Cody found unacceptable. The conversation between Cody and WWE management reportedly got very intense with voices raised and frustrations aired on both sides. WWE tried to explain that this was part of a larger storyline, that Cody taking this loss and this beating would make his eventual comeback even more satisfying for fans. They pointed to past examples of top stars enduring humiliating defeats before rising to greater heights. They promised Cody that this was temporary and that he would get his revenge on Drew McIntyre in a future encounter. But Cody wasn't buying it. Sources say he argued that there's a difference between a competitive loss that a wrestler can recover from and a complete destruction that damages someone's credibility permanently. He felt that WWE had crossed that line, that the beating he absorbed and the way Drew McIntyre was allowed to continue attacking after the match had already ended made him look weak in a way that couldn't be undone with a simple revenge win down the line. Cody reportedly said that his character, his brand, and his legacy were all damaged by this booking decision and he wasn't willing to continue under those circumstances. The conversation ended with Cody Rhodes reportedly telling WWE management that he needed time away to think about his future with the company. He didn't give a definitive statement about quitting permanently, but the implication was clear. Unless things changed dramatically, unless WWE could give him assurances that this kind of humiliation wouldn't happen again, Cody was seriously considering walking away from his contract and leaving WWE for good. Management tried to convince him to take a few days to cool off before making any rash decisions, but Cody left the building without committing to anything. The news of Cody's potential departure started leaking to wrestling media outlets within hours. Journalists with connections inside WWE began reporting that Cody Rhodes was unhappy, that he had confrontations with management, that his future with the company was uncertain. Some reports went further, claiming that Cody had already made up his mind and was just working through the logistics of his exit. Other reports suggested that negotiations were ongoing and that WWE was desperately trying to repair the relationship before it was too late. The wrestling community reacted with shock and anger to these reports. Fans who had supported Cody's return to WWE, who had cheered his championship victories and celebrated his accomplishments, were devastated by the possibility of losing him again. Social media filled with messages begging Cody to reconsider, blaming WWE for terrible booking, and expressing fury at how the situation had been handled. The consensus among fans was that WWE had fumbled one of their biggest stars through short-sighted creative decisions that prioritized short-term shock value over long-term character development. Other wrestlers started weighing in on the situation, some publicly and others through anonymous quotes to media outlets. Several current and former WWE performers expressed sympathy for Cody's position, saying they understood his frustration with booking that made him look weak. Some pointed out that WWE has a history of building stars up only to tear them down in ways that don't make sense from a storytelling perspective. Others defended WWE, arguing that wrestlers need to trust the creative process and understand that losses and setbacks are part of building compelling narratives. Drew McIntyre himself has remained quiet about the controversy surrounding the match and its aftermath. He hasn't posted anything on social media addressing Cody's reported unhappiness or the fan backlash against the finish. Some interpret this silence as professionalism, not wanting to add fuel to an already volatile situation. Others see it as cowardice, refusing to take responsibility for his role in humiliating a fellow performer. The truth is probably somewhere in between, with Drew following company guidance to stay silent while WWE figures out how to handle the public relations disaster. Behind the scenes, WWE is reportedly in full damage control mode. Executives are having emergency meetings to discuss how to address the situation publicly and what steps can be taken to convince Cody Rhodes to stay with the company. Some within WWE are angry at Cody for what they perceive as an overreaction to a standard storyline beat. They argue that every top star has to take humiliating losses sometimes and that Cody's reluctance to do so shows a lack of commitment to the team-first mentality WWE tries to promote. Others within the company are more sympathetic to Cody's position and are advocating for major changes to prevent similar situations in the future. These voices argue that WWE needs to be more careful about how they present their top stars, that not every loss needs to be a complete destruction, that protecting the credibility of your main event talent should be a priority. They point to competitors like AEW who have built their entire promotional strategy around treating wrestlers with respect and giving them creative input in their storylines. The mention of AEW brings up another angle to this entire situation that has WWE executives extremely nervous. If Cody Rhodes does leave WWE, there's an obvious landing spot waiting for him with open arms. All Elite Wrestling is the company Cody helped found, where he was an executive vice president and one of the featured stars before returning to WWE. While Cody's relationship with AEW ended somewhat awkwardly when he left to return to WWE, there's no doubt that AEW would welcome him back in a heartbeat if he became available. The prospect of Cody Rhodes returning to AEW after such a public falling out with WWE would be a public relations nightmare for the larger company. It would validate every criticism that WWE doesn't know how to book their talent properly, that they drive away stars through creative incompetence, that wrestlers are better off in other promotions where they have more control over their characters and storylines. WWE has worked hard to position itself as the premier wrestling company in the world, the place where the best performers want to be. Losing Cody Rhodes, especially under these circumstances, would undermine that positioning significantly. Financial considerations also play a major role in this situation. Cody Rhodes is one of WWE's biggest merchandise sellers, a top draw for live events, and a featured player in their television programming. Losing him would create a significant hole in the roster that wouldn't be easy to fill. WWE would need to elevate someone else to take Cody's spot, but there's no guarantee that replacement would connect with fans or generate similar revenue. From a pure business perspective, keeping Cody Rhodes happy and under contract should be a top priority for WWE. The fan reaction to Cody's potential departure has been overwhelmingly negative toward WWE. Comment sections on every wrestling news site are filled with people blaming the company for terrible creative decisions, for not respecting their talent, for caring more about short-term shock moments than long-term storytelling. Many fans are threatening to cancel their WWE Network subscriptions, to stop attending live events, to boycott the product entirely if Cody leaves. Whether these threats would actually materialize into meaningful financial impact is unclear, but the sentiment reflects genuine anger and disappointment. Some fans are trying to be more balanced in their assessment, acknowledging that professional wrestling requires losses and that not every outcome can be what fans want. They argue that Cody Rhodes knew what he was signing up for when he returned to WWE, that the company has ultimate creative control, and that performers need to be willing to do what's asked of them. These voices are in the minority right now, drowned out by the louder chorus of fans who feel WWE has repeatedly shown poor judgment in how they handle their top stars. The timing of this controversy couldn't be worse for WWE. The company is in the middle of negotiations for new television deals, trying to convince networks that their programming is valuable and worth premium prices. A major scandal involving one of their top stars potentially quitting because of creative frustrations doesn't help those negotiations. Networks want stability and confidence that WWE can maintain quality programming. Losing someone like Cody Rhodes raises questions about whether WWE has the creative infrastructure to sustain their product long-term. Sponsors and advertisers are also watching this situation closely. Major companies that partner with WWE want to be associated with a product that fans love and respect. When fans are angry, when controversies dominate the conversation, when the news coverage is overwhelmingly negative, sponsors start questioning whether the partnership is beneficial. WWE can't afford to lose major sponsors over creative decisions that damage their brand reputation. The locker room morale is another concern that WWE needs to address. When a top star like Cody Rhodes publicly clashes with management and potentially quits over booking decisions, it sends a message to every other wrestler on the roster. That message is that WWE might not have your best interests at heart, that you could be the next person humiliated on television for storyline purposes, that your concerns about character presentation might be ignored or dismissed. This creates an atmosphere of distrust and anxiety that can affect performance and loyalty. Several wrestlers have reportedly reached out to Cody privately to offer support and express their own frustrations with WWE creative. These conversations haven't been made public obviously, but sources indicate that Cody isn't alone in feeling that WWE sometimes makes booking decisions that prioritize shock value over sensible character development. The difference is that most wrestlers don't have the leverage or options that Cody Rhodes has. They can't threaten to leave because they don't have other promotions lining up to sign them. Cody's unique position gives him power that most performers don't possess. The wrestling media has been covering this story extensively with new reports and updates dropping constantly. Every major wrestling news outlet has published multiple articles analyzing the situation from different angles. Podcasts dedicated to wrestling coverage have devoted entire episodes to discussing what happened, what it means, and what might happen next. YouTube channels are pumping out video after video breaking down the controversy and speculating about Cody's future. The story has completely dominated wrestling discourse, overshadowing everything else happening in WWE and the industry generally. International fans have also expressed strong opinions about this situation, with messages coming in from Europe, Asia, Latin America, and every other region where WWE has an audience. The global nature of modern wrestling means that controversies like this spread worldwide instantly, affecting WWE's reputation and business in every market they operate. Cody Rhodes has fans all over the world who are upset about how he's been treated and who are making their feelings known through social media and fan forums. Some observers have pointed out that this entire situation could be an elaborate storyline designed to generate buzz and keep people talking about WWE programming. Professional wrestling has a long history of blurring the lines between reality and fiction, using real-life tensions and controversies as fuel for on-screen storytelling. However, most credible sources insist that Cody's frustration is genuine, that the backstage confrontation with management really happened, and that his future with WWE is legitimately uncertain. The company might try to incorporate this real-life drama into storylines eventually, but the origin of the conflict appears to be authentic creative disagreement. The next few days will be crucial in determining how this situation resolves. WWE needs to decide whether they are willing to make concessions to keep Cody Rhodes happy or whether they'll stand firm on their creative decisions and risk losing him. Cody needs to decide whether the benefits of staying with WWE outweigh the frustrations, whether he believes the company will change their approach, whether his pride allows him to return after such a public display of unhappiness. Both sides have legitimate interests and concerns that need to be balanced. If Cody does leave WWE, the fallout will be significant and long-lasting. The company will face months of criticism about how they handled the situation. Fans will constantly remind them that they drove away a homegrown star who represented everything positive about professional wrestling. Competitors will use Cody's departure as recruiting ammunition when talking to other WWE talent about potentially jumping ship. The narrative will be that WWE is a company that doesn't value its performers, that treats them as interchangeable parts rather than unique talent who deserve respect and creative input. If Cody stays with WWE, the company will need to make meaningful changes to prevent similar situations in the future. That might mean giving top stars more input into their creative direction. It might mean being more thoughtful about how losses are presented and ensuring that even defeats don't completely destroy a character's credibility. It might mean better communication between creative teams and performers so that everyone understands the plan and feels heard. Whatever changes WWE implements, they'll need to be substantial enough to rebuild trust not just with Cody but with the entire roster. The wrestling industry is watching this situation closely because it represents a larger tension that exists throughout the business. How much creative control should wrestlers have over their characters and storylines? How much should companies prioritize long-term character development versus short-term rating spikes? What's the proper balance between respecting performers as artists and running a business that needs compelling television content? These questions don't have easy answers, but the Cody Rhodes situation is forcing everyone to confront them. Fans continue to flood social media with their opinions, keeping this story trending and ensuring it remains in the public consciousness. The passion and intensity of these reactions demonstrate how much people care about Cody Rhodes and how invested they are in his success. Wrestling fans can be critical and demanding, but that criticism comes from a place of genuine love for the art form and desire to see it presented at the highest level. When they feel like that standard isn't being met, they let their feelings be known loudly and persistently. Make sure you drop a comment below telling everyone what you think about this absolute mess that WWE has created. Should Cody Rhodes stay and fight for better creative treatment, or should he leave and go somewhere that will respect his talent and legacy? Share this video with every wrestling fan you know because this is the biggest story in the industry right now and everyone needs to understand what's happening. Subscribe to this channel because we'll be covering every development in this situation as it unfolds, bringing you updates the moment news breaks. The future of Cody Rhodes and potentially the future of WWE itself hangs in the balance, and we're going to be here documenting every twist and turn until this story reaches its conclusion.